Horned helmets, bloodthirsty warriors, and skull goblets. Is this what comes to mind when you think of Vikings? The Viking image has changed dramatically over the centuries. Romanticized in the 18th and 19th centuries, they're now portrayed everywhere from Wagner's Ring Cycle to Marvel's Thor, from the History Channel's Vikings to countless video games. But how much of what we think we know is actually true? Today, we're challenging 10 of the most common misconceptions about the Vikings. Some of these might surprise you. And stick around until the end, because myth number 10 explains why there was never actually a unified Viking empire, despite them controlling vast territories across Europe. Before we start, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear Viking? Drop it in the comments below. Now, let's start with the most iconic myth of all. Picture a Viking warrior. Are you imagining someone with massive horns protruding from their helmet? Well, what if I told you that not a single Viking helmet with horns has ever been discovered? Here's the truth. The horned helmet was actually a 19th century invention. The real culprit, Richard Wagner's opera Der Ring des Nibelungen from the 1870s. The costume designer, Carl Emil Doppler, thought horned helmets looked cool for the Viking roles and created one of history's biggest myths. Archaeological evidence shows Vikings wore simple iron or leather helmets. The only Viking Age helmet ever found, the German Boo helmet from Norway, looks more like a Batman mask without the pointy ears. Crucially, no horns. In battle, horned helmets would have been completely impractical. Imagine trying to fight with those things catching on to everything. So, if Vikings didn't wear horned helmets, did they at least look like Chris Hemsworth? Tall, blonde, and blue-eyed? Let's find out. When Hollywood casts Vikings, they always seem to pick 6-foot-tall blonde actors. But what did DNA analysis of actual Viking skeletons reveal about their appearance? Surprise! Vikings came in all hair colors, blonde, red, and brunette, just like Scandinavians today. Viking society wasn't even exclusively Scandinavian. It was already a cultural and ethnic mix with diverse eye colors too. The average Viking male was about 5'6", 1.73 meters, exactly average for Europeans at the time. Their towering reputation likely comes from 19th and 20th century nationalism that promoted Vikings as the Nordic archetype. Here's something interesting. Vikings were actually quite vain. Archaeological sites are full of combs, tweezers, and razors. They even used high lye soap that deterred lice, chuckling, and had the side effect of bleaching their hair. What do you think? Does this change your mental image of Vikings? Comment below. But wait, if not everyone looked like a stereotypical Viking, was everyone in medieval Scandinavia actually a Viking? The answer might surprise you. Did you know that Viking was actually a job description, not an ethnicity? So what percentage of Scandinavians were actually Vikings? Here's the truth. To the Norse, Viking was both a verb, a raid, and a noun, a raider. Most Vikings were young men on their medieval equivalent of a gap year, trying to get rich quick before settling down. The majority of Scandinavians were farmers, craftsmen, and traders living in small villages. In the Icelandic sagas, older men still going on raids were seen as anti-social troublemakers who never grew up. Like that 40-something friend who still wants to party all night. Viking society had 3 classes: Jarls, aristocracy; Carls, freemen or farmers; and thralls, slaves. Most people would never go on a Viking raid in their lifetime. So, Vikings were just a small portion of society, but when they did raid, were they really more brutal than other warriors of their time? The attack on Lindisfarne Monastery in 793 AD shocked medieval Europe. But were Vikings actually more violent than other warriors of their era? While Vikings certainly instilled fear, experts say violence was endemic in medieval times. As historian Joanne Short Butler notes, they were no more brutal than representatives of other nations. Consider this: Charlemagne, the patron of culture, ordered the beheading for 4,500 Saxons in one day at Verdun. Vikings weren't uniquely violent, they were products of a violent age. Yes, Vikings raided and pillaged, but they also traded extensively, told elaborate stories. The Norse sagas are like medieval soap operas, and often settled peacefully, integrating with local populations and even embracing Christianity. Speaking of Viking raids, surely those terrifying dragon-headed ships were real, right? Well,
those iconic dragon-headed longships are synonymous with Vikings. But how many actual dragon-head ships have archaeologists found? Answer: just one. The Ladby ship in Denmark had decorative iron curls for a dragon's mane with space for a removable dragon head. Most evidence comes from later written sources and graffiti, like Norse drawings in Istanbul's Hagia Sophia. The 13th century Book of Settlements reveals something interesting.
Like and subscribe for more.
Sailors had to remove dragon heads when approaching Iceland to avoid frightening the land spirits. This suggests they were decorative elements used selectively, not standard equipment. Do you think Vikings would have been less intimidating without the dragon heads? Let us know. If dragon ships are questionable, what about the horrific blood eagle torture Vikings supposedly inflicted on enemies?
warning, this one's gruesome. Did Vikings really cut their victims' ribs from their spines and spread them like wings? Or is this medieval fake news? This horrific ritual, where lungs were pulled out to resemble eagle wings, is probably fiction. The few references in Norse poetry are cryptic and likely metaphorical. Each retelling over the centuries got nastier and more fantastical, like a gory game of telephone. Recent scientific analysis concluded that while anatomically possible with Viking tools, victims would die from blood loss or asphyxiation early in the process. A complete blood eagle could only be performed on a corpse. Medieval historian Eleanor Barraclough suggests it's highly debatable this ever happened. Until archaeologists find clear evidence, it remains a myth that says more about our fascination with Viking brutality than about historical reality. Relieved? Well, here's another gruesome myth. Did Vikings really drink from their enemies' skulls? Imagine Vikings toasting with human skulls at their victory feasts. Metal, right? But where did this stomach-turning idea actually come from? Blame a translation error. In 1636, Danish scholar Ole Worm mistranslated a Norse poem. The original said heroes would drink from curved branches of skulls, meaning animal horns. Worm translated it as drinking from the skulls of those they killed. This single translation error created centuries of misconception. While some historical groups reportedly did drink from enemy skulls, there's zero evidence Vikings ever did this. Funny how one translation error can shape our entire perception of a culture, isn't it? So they didn't drink from skulls, but surely those dramatic Viking ship funerals where they burned the dead at sea were real?
We've all seen it in movies, the flaming long ship carrying a dead Viking warrior to Valhalla. But how many ship burials with evidence of burning have been found? Almost none. Vikings were either cremated on land pyres or buried, sometimes in ships like the famous Oseberg burial containing 2 high-status women, but the ship wasn't burned. Our main evidence for ship burning comes from one account by an Arab diplomat Ibn Fadlan in Russia, describing a Rus chieftain's funeral. But even the ethnic identity of these Rus is disputed. They may have been more Slavic than Scandinavian by that time. Most Viking funerals were far less cinematic than Hollywood suggests. Sorry to disappoint. What about those legendary berserker warriors who supposedly took magic mushrooms before battle?
Berserkers, Vikings special forces who fought in a trance-like fury, possibly naked, definitely high on magic mushrooms. Sounds insane, right? But is there any evidence? The word berserk does come from these warriors, but the magic mushroom claim? Completely unsubstantiated. Experts state there's absolutely no evidence for this. While berserkers likely existed as elite warriors who fought with unusual ferocity, the drug use is modern speculation. They may have used psychological techniques or rituals to enter battle fury, but magic mushrooms? That's a myth that says more about 1960s counterculture than Viking culture. Have you heard other wild berserker theories? Share them in the comments.
Share your tales, friends.
Finally, with Vikings controlling territory from Greenland to Russia, surely there was one great Viking kingdom ruling it all.
Vikings controlled vast territories across Europe, so they must have had a unified empire like Rome, right? Actually, the truth reveals something fascinating about Viking society. Vikings were never one unified kingdom. They were distinct groups from Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, each with different specialties. Norwegians explored the Atlantic, reaching North America. Swedes, the Rus, went east, trading with Byzantium and founding Russian cities. Danes focused on Western Europe and Britain. The closest they came to unity was Canute the Great's North Sea Empire, 1028 to 1035, controlling England, Denmark, and Norway. At his peak, Canute was Western Europe's most powerful ruler after the Holy Roman Emperor. But this empire collapsed immediately after his death. The Vikings' lack of unity might actually have been their strength, allowing flexible, adaptable expansion across diverse territories. So there you have it, 10 Viking myths thoroughly debunked. From horned helmets to magic mushrooms, from skull cups to ship funerals, the real Vikings were quite different from popular culture's version. They were diverse, complex people, traders and raiders, settlers and storytellers, craftsmen and warriors. Perhaps less cinematically brutal, but far more historically fascinating. Which myth surprised you the most? And what other Viking facts have you heard that might also be myths? Drop them in the comments. Maybe we'll do a part 2. If you enjoyed debunking these myths, hit that like button and subscribe for more history myth busting. And remember, next time you see a horned helmeted Viking, you can confidently say, actually, that's a Wagner thing. Thanks for watching. And until next time, keep questioning what you think you know about history.